It is official. Ukrainian forces, within 24 hours of getting the green light to use Western weapons in Russia, they used Western weapons in Russia. Let's go ahead and talk about this. It's kind of interesting that we're getting the information now because technically it happened yesterday, actually over 24 hours ago. So let's go ahead and break it down. It was only about Friday afternoon/evening, local time, Eastern time, that information from the White House got out that Biden was greenlighting Ukraine to use different kinds of weapons to strike into Russia. At this point, the stipulation is that they can only strike just kind of northeast of Kyiv into really Belgorod, Russia. And Ukraine was kind of fighting in the sense of saying, hey, we need to be able to strike more areas because Russia does a lot of their strikes off of air bases that are deeper into Russia. We need to be able to strike over there. And while we don't technically have an answer on that, we did hear something along the lines of the United States being able to let Ukraine use other kinds of ammunition, but not the HIMARS, but maybe the HIMARS. And well, today we finally got answers of what happened. So after that happened on Friday, late on Saturday night Eastern time or early hours on Sunday Ukrainian time, Ukrainians struck a few different things in Russia. Officially, I have to say, the Ukrainian military has not really commented on anything, except for the fact that they said here that they did confirm that they crossed the border and had cross-border strikes and hit military targets. That is the most extent that we get from Ukrainian officials. But when you start diving into Russian Telegram, Russian news, you start reading their propaganda and trying to decipher what exactly happened, this is what we sort of understand. In the early hours on Sunday, local time Eastern, so local Ukrainian time, Ukraine had sent roughly about 40-ish of these HIMARS missiles into Russia, into Belgorod, Russia. Now, the reason why 40 came up is because several reports said there was about 40 explosions. It could have been less, and maybe those things hit other things which caused explosions, but that's the number that was said over here. And those explosions happened over the course of about 15 minutes. So that's why I was saying that, one missile could have hit something which lit, an ammunition trench or something else which caused other explosions. We don't know the exact number of how many things were hit. In terms of things being hit, originally Russia reported that Ukraine had sent things over and they knocked them all down. And it's funny because within like an hour of that going live, newspaper articles and other things started coming up saying that no, things were definitely hit. We see smoke. We see things that are going on. And so in a way, the only things that they kind of put out there, you can kind of generalize everything. It says that it was heavy Russian artillery systems, troop concentrations, and at least one major bridge. Now, I haven't seen anything talking about a bridge being hit. We have seen pictures, though, of artillery and what looks to be air defense systems such as the S-300 and S-400 that were hit. In these photos, you could see what looks to be some kind of launcher that is on fire, at least the beginning of the front of it, while the back end is damaged just a little bit. You see a couple different photos of a few different things on fire, one of which it's kind of really hard to tell what exactly was hit. It just looks like something was on fire. And then we saw a video which showcases something else on fire. Now, really, that's kind of all we know at this time. I just find it a little bit funny because Russia put out a statement early this morning saying that there's going to be fatal consequences if the United States allows Ukraine to use Western weapons in Russia, which really didn't make much sense to me because if these attacks happened on Saturday night, Sunday morning, and they put the announcement out now, is someone not getting the information? Is the military really trying to suppress the information that Russian officials aren't really understanding what's going on? I have no idea. But those consequences so far seem like nothing happened if this happened on Saturday and is now, Monday afternoon and we haven't really heard much. Now, granted, Russia has in the past few days stepped up their nightly attacks. I mean, one night we saw, 90-something odd air targets Russia has been also making a lot of weird claims, saying that they sunk Ukrainian Navy ships in Odessa and other ports, and that was not true. Actually, Russia targeted civilians, and I'm thinking maybe they said the boat thing so that they can justify hitting civilians by saying, oh, we were aiming for the boats, and we hit the boats, and we sunk them, and it's like, nah, it doesn't look like you did so, buddy, because there's no proof of that, and everything we've been showing you wasn't even that close to the docks. I mean, some critical infrastructure near the docks were hit, but nothing that would make you say, wow, they were definitely aiming for those boats. Now, back to this whole thing about sending missiles and rockets into Russia. There have been some reports stating that Ukraine would have to get permission to send things over from the Pentagon. Some U.S. news actually said that. Turns out that's not true. There is a stipulation that Ukraine can only use these just northeast of Kyiv. More than likely, that was a front for something else. Who really knows? I mean, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes we don't really know about. And that's one of those where you just have to understand that Zelensky said a few weeks ago that, like, everyone keeps on giving information about what exactly they're giving Ukraine, and then Russia plans on that. You know, Russia found out that Ukraine can't fire into Russia with Western weapons, and so what they do? They went right on their border and they started firing, knowing that Ukraine can't hit it. And Zelensky's like, we have to stop, like, telling Russia what we're doing. We need other countries to stop telling what they're providing and what Ukraine's getting, because ultimately they could just look at that and then rewrite their entire map or their whole entire schedule of what they were going to do to find that loophole that Ukraine can't do. And so that's why right now we're really not getting a lot of information. We don't know how many were shot off. We don't know how many were shot down. We don't know exactly 100% what was hit besides the photos and videos that were put on Russian Telegram groups showcasing what was hit. Like, I haven't seen anything about that bridge yet. And I'm sure there's been some things, like I did see something, there was like, it looked like it was a side of a road with a guardrail, and there was something hit there, but that didn't really look like much, you know what I mean? So it's like we're still waiting for some things to come out to get new information out there. That way we can kind of confirm it. Now, on the Russian side, what could happen now that Ukraine has used Western weapons? That's something a lot of people were worried about because, you know, Russia has been making a lot of threats. Oh, well, if you guys do this, we'll do that, blah, blah, blah. For 2 years, over 2 years, Russia and Putin have been making these empty threats. And that's all they've been, empty threats. You know, if you guys do this, we're going to do that, and then Russia doesn't do X, Y, and Z. I believe Russia doesn't have a response, and really there's nothing they could do about it, because as we're finding out from how Ukraine's able to get into Russian territories fairly quickly, Russia has no air defense. You know, if they're able to go 1,800 kilometers into Russia and strike targets, like a radar station, which, you know, it's supposed to monitor for those things, if they're able to do this, clearly Russia would not be able to withstand any kind of war with any other country. You know, so I think as Russia keeps on making these, fatal consequences, or this will be bad for you, or if you do this, we're going to do this, they're all empty threats, because Russia cannot afford to anger another country. And just look what Ukraine has been able to do, even look in the past 6 months when they didn't have the supply chain. Sure, Russia took over some territory, not much, a village here, a village there, but Ukrainians were able to hold them back at like a 1-to-8 ratio. For every one Ukrainian loss, 8 of them were, well, the comparison would be for 8 Russians. So Russia clearly doesn't have what they would need to take on a fight with other countries. Now, could they use bigger weapons in Ukraine, which could cause more damage or do larger attacks? That they could. But I'm sure that the United States, France, Germany, the UK would all look at that and say, well, if they're stepping it up, we will step it up and give, whether it's longer range missiles or other kinds of rockets or other kinds of ammunition to Ukraine to allow them to effectively strike something massive to remind Russia and put them in place that, no, that's not what's going to go on here. You're going to stop this. And the other thing I just want to add in is the fact that Russia still thinks they can write the rules because, you know, I'm thinking they're firing in the Kyiv almost every single day, hitting civilian targets. Okay. And Ukraine then would fire on them, and then Russia's, oh, you can't do that. Well, what makes you do what you're doing? It makes absolutely no sense. So Russia and their double standards and their propaganda and their just, false information that's getting out there, I don't actually think that Russia would do anything at this point. And if I'm right, and we see Russia not really do anything crazy in the next week and a half, I'm sure the United States would slowly allow Ukraine to go deeper and deeper into Russia, to take out military bases, take out certain military airports, maybe some kind of other launcher area, maybe a factory. There's a lot of different stuff that Ukraine could take out with the help of not only Western weapons such as the United States. We need things that Ukraine hasn't gotten before. And yes, Germany, we're talking about Tauruses. Things that Ukraine, which could use in junction with Storm Shadows and HIMARS and other systems, which could really honestly be the best thing to shut down Russia. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want? We all want Russia to be put in their place, to quiet them down, to have them stop this entire invasion of a peaceful country and other countries in general, so that we can all get back to a normal life down the line. All that being said, I want to know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. Are you happy that Ukraine struck these things out? Do you think Ukraine should be able to go deeper into Russia? And do you think that Germany should eventually give Tauruses to Ukraine? I know, Schultz and all of them, some days he's like really, really pro-Ukrainian. Other days he's scared that Russia's going to try to come after them because they're so dependent on X, Y, and Z from Russia. It is a bizarre situation over there. I'm not really quite sure what is going on, but I could tell you that European countries are getting tired of Russia bossing Ukraine around. And if once again we go another week and Russia doesn't respond, I'm sure that more countries are going to allow Ukraine to go deeper or give them more ammunition. Anyway, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. I'm Joey. I'll see you later. Bye.